Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We welcome you to the afternoon session of the Food and Beverage Engineering Conference here at Derby Arena. My name is Simon Day. It's my pleasure to be your host and moderator for this afternoon's speakers and for the panel debate that will take place later on. We're going to start this afternoon session with a keynote address from Andy Gailey. It's my privilege to introduce him to you. I'll share with you the information I have here and invite him to begin. Andy Gailey is the Managing Director of Uptime Consultant Limited, formed in 2015 as an independent engineering business based in Coventry. An engineer by trade, he previously spent 21 years with PepsiCo, Walker Snacks Foods, delivering the condition monitoring and lubrication strategy that resulted in world-class engineering status. For the past 10 years, he has been helping clients across a range of sectors, primarily food and beverage, on their journey towards a more reliable, predictable and proactive future. With an address entitled Reactive to Proactive with People, it's my privilege to introduce to you Andy Gailey.
Well, it's good to see a lot of people here today.
So I'm going to talk about people today, really. So we've got lots of technology around us and lots of software and hardware and providers. And sometimes people forget the people part. I'm also going to touch on reliability and how I believe reliability is a people-centric thing. It's not something that's AI or machine learning or done by automated systems. And that we're going to share with you a story of moving from a totally reactive operation to a proactive and predictive one from my background. So who are we? We're Uptime Consultant Limited, as Simon just said. We're from Coventry. It's myself and my partner Jenny, and we started this business 10 years ago when we left the Coventry plant, which is a PepsiCo international plant. And that's the only wet corn process plant in the UK, still is. Been there for 30 years, and I still occasionally go back and help them with criticality studies. So say we celebrate 10 years this year. It seems like only yesterday we started out with a clean sheet of paper and decided what we were going to do, and one of the top things was a 10-year plan. Well, we just rebooted that now because we're looking forward to the next 10 years. We're centrally based in Coventry, and I'd say about 80% of all of our clients are in the food and beverage sector, although we do cover automotive, power, utilities, water. We've been there at Severn Trent, and we've been there at National Grid Gas. So anything that moves and rotates and has got a risk of failing and breaking down, I'm interested in. So maintenance, I'd just like to use this anecdote about us being in the velodrome. Maintenance is not a sprint. It's not something that's done overnight. There's no silver bullets, and you can't go in there and gain world-class status in 5 minutes flat. It's more like a triathlon. Triathlon's multidisciplined, and you've got to balance. You've got to balance the swim with the cycling and with the run. And if you spend too much time in one area, you will fail. You will fall over. Your times won't be what you expected. And when you do that kind of triathlon sport, you have to balance the training as well. Maintenance is more like a 3-week grand tour. People don't realise that the 3-week grand tour de France that starts next month takes about 49 weeks to organise. There's a whole crew of people behind that make it happen over those 3 weeks. Very, very convoluted. Lots of maintenance strategy is used within events like the Tour de France. So food and beverage businesses, they're kind of sometimes disjointed. They've got somebody somewhere in operations decide they want to make 1 or 1.5 tonne an hour of a certain product, and then they ask another team in the background to go and engineer that plant and produce it and deliver it and give us the keys. And as maintenance engineers, my background, I spent kind of 20 years really in that kind of sphere, although I'm not a maintenance engineer. We get the keys to a lot of heartache, because the first thing I can guarantee will happen is this thing will break, and then the people who provided it, they'll say you've had it, we've designed it correctly and you're using it wrong, and operations usually then fall out with the maintenance guys. All these OEM component parts that go into these assets, they interact with each other, and sometimes this can be an adverse interaction Reliability is built in. You can't maintain in any reliability. So what are we looking at delivering as a maintenance function, an engineering function? We need to work safely, deliver everybody back home with all their fingers and in good condition. And also, we've got to do things that we do efficiently. That's not just as a maintenance organisation, but the overall plant. This is driven through having the availability that operations require. Maintenance and engineering are the arbiters of operational availability. We give operations what they want so they can produce that tonnage. They get their productivity, and hopefully they've thought now about sustainability. Myself and Jenny, we were dyed in the wool in sustainability probably 20 years at PepsiCo, 20 years ago. PepsiCo were way ahead of the curve when it comes to water usage, gas usage, electrics. We even have bio plants on site now. So sustainability is part of the PepsiCo and Walker's kind of mindset.
And I believe that if you do maintenance and engineering
correctly, it will tick every single KPI in your operation. That's labour usage, that's inventory, parts, gas, electric, pneumatic air, and it's people that provide that. It's not anything that automatically happens overnight. So the main groups I now work with are frontline engineers and operators, and trying to engage them, because you have to engage people first, into thinking differently about how they operate. And most maintenance engineers I come across, they're still very reactive. And some of them actually like fixing broken plant. Operations and engineering, my story later on goes into a little bit of this, not going into detail, but operations and engineering should be joined at the hip. They should be like twins. They should live together. They're yin and yang. If operations live in a silo and engineering live in their silo, nothing's ever going to work properly. So that's a key point. Planning, if we don't have a plant, then we're going to plan to fail. You've heard that old one. Well, these assets will plan for your failure. If you've got no plan to look after them through their life cycle, and no plan to look after the people that look after them, then it's a whole world of pain. It's a people-centric piece of work. People don't just turn up to work to be there. They're delivering value to the business. If we engage them, that's one of the issues I see, is we have conversations outside of their earshot that say that they're not delivering, but we never sit down with them and say, there's a better way of doing this. On the third party usually goes into plants and drops that bombshell that reactive maintenance is not the way forward. Site leadership, I've left this to last because if there's not this site leadership that can support this, then it's all doomed to failure. The site leadership in that case as well, what they have to do, they have to almost stand back a little bit and let these people do their work. That's where I saw add value with the plant that I operated in. So this is this real story. This is a 5-year graph. This is a very reactive plant on the left-hand side. Availability is obviously in green and the unplanned downtime is in blue. We actually had to have a third party come in and look at what we were doing because we were kidding ourselves. When that was over, after 3 or 4 days, they told us we hadn't got single figures unplanned downtime. We got over 12%. We were 50% out. We hadn't got 85% availability. We got 72. The plant wasn't available. Well, it was available, it was broken. So this was an event-driven plan. What I mean by an event-driven plan is that every time you went on shift, you knew you were going to fix something. And it might even be the same thing you'd fixed 2 or 3 weeks ago. During this journey, we developed and optimised what we were doing, and we used a methodology called reliability centre maintenance. That was our overarching philosophy. We became more planned, and that doesn't mean say we added planned work. We actually took away about 30% of all the planned maintenance. That added zero value, was in backlog, or was actually damaging the assets. This is again, a lot of plants don't understand this. Planned maintenance can be harmful, and it is a key tenet of reliability-centred maintenance. After optimising and trying to sustain this, we got to a place where we were completely condition-based. We knew what was going to happen, and from my point of view, when I was asked to do the condition monitoring and lubrication strategy, within 6 months I took away all of the time lubrication on site, and we did it purely through feedback from the tools we used. Everything was based on condition. We became proactive in everything we did. We got caught out occasionally, and you will. You cannot get rid of reactive work. But it was a surprise when it did happen. At the end of this journey, we were driving less than 2% unplanned downtime, period on period. Not one period, we're about a whole quarter of 1.82% unplanned downtime. We were delivering 95% availability. So we were delivered so much availability, they had to turn parts of the plant off because operations didn't need it. There was no bottleneck. 5% is what you can ever get in a food factory. That's sanitation. So RCM, I try to explain it simply if nobody knows about it, is we're looking at the risks and consequences to your plant. And from a technical point of view, we're going to look at your asset groups, and we're going to put a hierarchy down that tries to drive the Pareto of the 20% of your assets that are most important. And we're going to target those and use most of our efforts first thing to work on those. And we go down to component level. We want to know the failure mode, not what somebody thinks happens, not what the OEM thinks happens to your plant, actually what happens. This is, you need proof. You need a CMMS to drive it. Once you've done that, you can come up with a maintenance plan. RCM delivers a maintenance strategy. RCM is deemed a process. I call it philosophy. You can do nothing if you want. Welcome to reactive, restoration, and eating resources. The resources I usually talk about are the three finites: your time, your money, and your labour or other inputs. They're finite. You only got so much money. There's only 24 hours in a day. And as we tried to kid ourselves back then, when we did that first piece of work, there were 60 minutes in an hour, not 42. There was no grey area. So you can do that if you want. A lot of plans do. What you'll get to through RCM, you'll have a plan and plan tasks that will fit the failure modes on those particular asset groups. They might change, even if they're the same asset. Depends on the environment. Depends what the labour is in that particular plant. The inventory, in my experience, the inventory were driven down. When we increased, over time, your emergency spares will reduce because you have confidence. My own particular story started with the coming off the line as a technician and providing this condition-based maintenance and lubrication strategy for the plant. It took me about 6 months to get it right. It never stayed like the same. It changed. Every quarter, every period, I found something to change. Lubrication is the key. And let's face it, if you're in food and beverage, if you haven't got lubrication sorted out, the BRC is going to have you. You're going to lose those points. But we can only do lubrication right and the condition-based maintenance right if we can back it up with training. It's no good asking people that don't know anything about these subjects to go and do it, not without support. By giving them the support and the knowledge, we then enable them to make the change. Some people don't know there's an option of moving from reactive to proactive. So it has to be sold, and not just from somebody says something in the middle management or higher management. It has to be from the shop floor. And it's all about risk and consequence. Have you got a risk of failure? What's the consequences on the business? Maintenance should look at the delivery to the business. So that's why I think reliability is a people-centric piece of work. If we don't engage and talk to our people and tell them as an alternative, they'll just keep doing the same thing. They'll keep going on that shift like I did and repairing the same automatic case packer. So I'm not going to take any questions because I realise that we are actually lagging on time. But if anybody wants to question me about anything, or even, I like it when people disagree with me. So if you want to send me an email and say, I don't believe in that, let's have the conversation. Daily I'm on LinkedIn, and if you reach out to me and you're in this space, then I will connect with you. There are lots of people that reach out to me I don't connect with, but then again I'm not in the business of wanting new nails or things like that. So thanks very much for your time. I hope you've had a good day. I hope you have a good afternoon.
And I'll see you later at the panel discussion. Hopefully we can see some more of this. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much, Andy. And as Andy alluded to, he will be part of our panel discussion later on this afternoon. So we've got another 3 speakers. 4 of those speakers will join us on the panel, so there will be an opportunity for you to direct questions at them later on as well. So do please stick around for that. It's a privilege for me now to introduce our next speaker.